Hey, I'm Thomas, and this is BB, our little sidekick. I just wanted to introduce myself. I built the van that you're staying in. I've been living in vans for just about 10 years now. This is the third van that I've lived in full time for the last 10 years. I built my first van when I was getting out of the Army as a means to go rock climbing for a year. I wanted to take a year off from life and just go rock climbing. I built my first van. It was only supposed to be a year that I was on the road. I was planning on going back to real life, and I just liked rock climbing and living in a van so much that now it's been 10 years and 3 vans later. Throughout that time, I became a rock climbing guide. I now take people rock climbing for a living, and I was also building vans professionally during that time at one point. But yeah, now here we are, 3 vans, 10 years later. And after about 10 years of living in a van, I've kind of decided that I want to start making the transition back to living in a house. So that's why the van here is now available for you to rent and take out and enjoy. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, so you can know who you're renting the van from. And yeah, we'll be here for you for any questions you have. And I hope you enjoy your trip.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie. I'm the second part of the couple renting the van to you. Thomas and I have been living in vans together for about 3.5 years now, and this is our second van. I like to think that he built it for me so that I could have a sink and a closet. Those were my requests when we upgraded from our Sprinter to this transit van. It's such a lovely van. It has all the amenities of home. And we really love living in it, but we're ready to transition to house life. So we wanted to make it available for others to rent and take on their own adventures around Las Vegas and Colorado and the Southwest. This is our favorite place in the world. And we're happy to host you in our van. Let us know if you have any questions.
All right, when you first jump into the van, it's basically like your modern, normal, everyday car. I'm not going to go through all the controls. I think the biggest thing you're probably going to want is some CarPlay or Android Auto. It's pretty simple. The Android Auto and the CarPlay works through the left plug on the bottom here. Just plug your USB into it. When you turn your car on, plug your USB in. It might give you a little welcome screen, like, do you want to connect? And then you have your Android Auto. And should feel just like your car at home. If you want to adjust the steering wheel, there is a little paddle here that you open up, and then you can adjust the steering wheel out to what's comfortable for you. And then same thing, there's just manual adjustments for the seat, front and back. And then on the left-hand side here for the back. And that's about it. Everything else should feel just like your normal everyday car. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate how to spin the chairs around and basically get the van set up for like when you're hanging out at camp. The covers here are optional for privacy, but also when it's really cold out, they help to keep heat inside of the van. So if you're going to be sleeping overnight in a cold area, you definitely want to put these up. So I'm just going to show you this right now. You just open that up. You want to put up the windshield one before you spin the chairs around. Otherwise, you won't be able to lower down the visors when you open this up. Okay, I just flip the visors down like that. And then you can kind of push these out. All right, you just want it to cover as much of the windshield as you can. And then these are specific to each side as well. You want the silver on the outside. Okay. Sometimes the suction cups don't stick too well. You can always put a, wet them with your tongue or something like that to stick against the windshield. Next up, we can turn the chairs around. They both work the same way. There's a lever in the front. The only thing you're going to need to know, the parking brake can't be on for the driver's seat, and you're going to need to clear out everything from behind the driver's seat as well. So we can move the trash can out of the way, little storage basket out of the way. Make sure the van's in park before taking the parking brake off. All right, parking brake's off. The other thing that's a little tricky about this is you do need to move the back of the seat forward a little bit. Then you find the lever under here. We'll attach some pictures and a video of that. And then when you hit that lever, it should open free. You then have to slide it forward until you can spin it around. And then you can adjust it to where you want it. Same thing on the passenger side. Move the seat back forward. Hit the lever to open it up. Pull it forward. Spin it around. And then you can adjust it to however you want it. All right. Now you have the seat set up. And on the driver's side here, this is also where the workstation is. So for the workstation here, you simply open that up. And if you want to put it back down, there's two buttons underneath here that you push down, push it back down. And then this is also where you have your outlets. So this is kind of where we like to work on our laptops. You know, it's nice for someone to eat dinner here. This is our little workstation here.
Yes.
When we're talking about spinning the chair around, this is the little lever that we're talking about that you need to pull before the chair will spin around. Okay, it only locks in the forward position. So obviously it's already spun around, but from the locked position, you'll have to pull that forward to start spinning it around. To put these away, you just have to reverse what you did to get them there. And you want to make sure that they lock into position. Once they lock into position, then you're going to put them back to whatever's comfortable for driving. Here's the kitchen space. First of all, this button right here is to turn the lights on. So now you have lights in your kitchen space. We already talked about the workstation when we turn the chairs around. We have our stove, our refrigerator, drawers, and storage. So let's go through, oh, and some electricity, but that also applies to the whole van. I'll explain that in just a second. Here's how the stove works. First of all, it is a glass cover, so we ask that you be just gentle with it, opening and closing it. This glass can break, so just please be careful with it. You're opening it up. You got two burners down here. The way that you turn the burner on is you take this knob, spin it to light. You need to hold the knob down while you click it. Then you have to hold it for just a second or two, and then it'll stay on. And you can adjust your flame from there all the way down to full blast. And then same thing with the other one. Turn it to light, hold it down, light it. And you can either turn it to full blast, down low. All right. When you're finished with them, you just turn them to off and off, and then you can close the top. Next up is the refrigerator. This is basically the biggest refrigerator you can possibly get for a camper van. Lots of storage in here. Pretty self-explanatory. The only big thing I want to point out is there is a freezer. So we have a freezer here. You can even make ice cubes. That goes in the top there. Just if you're going to buy something that needs to be put in the freezer, make sure it fits in there. We have it set at about 3.5 right now. That's usually pretty good for almost anything, but you can adjust it if you need to. We find that between 3 and 4 is probably pretty good. Once again, there's some more glass in here, so we just ask that you be careful with any of the glass stuff, but it's basically just a little mini fridge. Nothing too special about it.
So this is all of our drawer storage, and this is where the little knickknacks and miscellaneous is stored. We have a few decks of cards, some scissors, our contact information, the little necessaries. But this is where you're going to find all your plates, bowls, silverware, coffee mugs, glasses, cooking utensils. There's also some tea bags in here and little napkins to use. Down here we have different size plates and bowls, a strainer for pasta, and a cast iron skillet. We have Ziplocs, extra Tupperware, towels, and a cutting board. And then in this drawer, we have two saucepans or pots, and then the one big skillet that we primarily cook on. And we put these towels between the pans just so that they don't scratch the non-stick surface. So if you could do that too, we would appreciate that. And we've provided salt, pepper, olive oil, some various bags of ground coffee, and there's some hot cocoa mixes as well. And up here is where you'll store your food, as well as we have a little blender up here, and the most important topic of every morning, coffee. So we've provided a French press to make your coffee with. Here's a little scoop to determine how much coffee you need, and here's instructions for the French press if you've never used one. There's also a timer for how long to steep the coffee for, or to keep the grounds in before you end up pressing it. If you have your own coffee beans, we do have a hand grinder for you to grind your own whole coffee beans if you're particular or bougie about your beans like we are. And then we also just have extra storage bins in here to store your food or anything that you might have related to that.
Table space on this fold out table. You simply just pull it up till it locks. Now you have extra space on here to cook, do other things. When you want to put it away, just like the other one, there's these two latches right here. You just hold them and it closes. Next up, we have our vent fan. So a couple things about the vent fan. We like to turn it on whenever we're cooking. It helps keep all the smoke from cooking, just takes it out of the van right away. Sometimes even helps to crack the door a little bit to get some ventilation going. It's usually the easiest to work the fan using the control. If you just hit the on button, it turns on, it opens up. You can control the fan speed by just pressing up or down. That's basically all you really need to know about the fan. We do ask that you turn the fan off before you start driving. Basically, we just want to make sure that that cover is closed before you start driving, because you can damage the cover. I'm going to demonstrate how to get your 110. So this is like your normal everyday household appliance. Usually you're probably going to be plugging in your laptops. It might not be enough to run like a hair dryer. Probably wouldn't recommend doing a hair dryer or anything that really needs a lot of power. But totally good for multiple laptops and other random little things that you need to plug in. To get your 110, you're coming over to this screen here. There's this green button. You're just going to hold it till it turns on, and then it'll tell you whatever the voltage is. So like right now it's 14.3 because we're out in the sun right now and our solar panels are giving us 14 volts. That's why it says that much. Every once in a while, when you turn this on, it'll start beeping at you. If it beeps at you constantly, just turn it off and then turn it back on. And that kind of resets it, and it should stop beeping. We've never really had more of a problem besides just turning it off, turning back on, and then you'll have 110. We do typically turn it off if we're not using 110, because we're not really using 110 that often, and you are draining the batteries anytime this thing is on. So if you need to charge your laptops, turn this on. If you're not charging, or if you're not using the plugs, just turn them off. This turns on these two plugs and these USBs. So this does need to have to be on for these USB to work. But there are other various USBs around the van that this doesn't need to be on. The other thing that this controls is there's another 110 plug up behind the cabinet in the back there. When we open up the back doors, maybe we'll show that. You can't see it from here, but there is one more 110 plug up there if you want to work from your laptop inside the bed. So this one right here just turns on these two plugs, these three USBs, and the two 110 outlets in the back. Next up is our heater. We have a propane heater that keeps it nice and warm in here. It is a little not intuitive. You have to press the flame button to turn it on. But if the thermostat is set above the current, below the current temperature, it actually won't turn on. So you have to hit the up button a bunch until you get a temperature that's above whatever the current temperature is before this will turn on. You'll know that it's working because there's a green light, and then when the flame actually turns on, this light will turn red. Okay, so our flame just turned on. And then if you give it a couple seconds and you come down here, the fan will be on and it'll start getting hot. It'll probably take about 30 seconds to a minute before the flame starts getting hot. Okay, if there's any kind of problem in the system, this red light will start blinking. Okay, the only time that usually starts blinking is if you run out of propane. We fill the propane up before you rent the van from us, and we find that we get about a month's worth of heat from our propane tank. So you really shouldn't have to have that problem. But just saying, if this is blinking red and this is not getting hot, give us a call. We'll tell you how to fix it. To turn it off, you just come back here, hit that flame button again. The green light will turn off, everything turns off, and then it takes it about a minute for it to shut down. So the fan's not going to turn off right away. It goes through a shutdown procedure. So just give it about a minute and then the fan will shut off. All right, some more electrical kind of things. We have this switch right here is for these lights. You just spin that switch and it turns the lights on. You also have two USB plugs. These are always energized. You don't have to turn on the inverter to get these to work. These will always have power. There are more. That second light switch in the back turns on the lights in the back. And there's also two more USBs on this side and another USB on this side with the reading light. When we go back there, we'll show that some more. All right, so here's the other power plugs. This is for the rear lights. That turns on and off the rear lights. It's on a dimmer switch. Here's two more USB ports down there. Here's that other 110 outlet. When you turn on the inverter, you'll get 110 out of here. On the driver's side, there's another USB outlet under here. And to turn the reading light on, you just simply tap the end of it. You've got 4 settings there, then it turns off. You can open the window up. And this is the bed. Next up, we have our water system, our sink. So the water pump is controlled by this switch right here. And the reason for that is if you run out of water, the pump will just consistently start, it won't turn off. So if you hear the pump running and it's not turning off, it's because you're out of water and you need to turn that switch off, okay? When you do have water, you simply turn that switch on and that will give you on-demand water, okay? Cold water comes out this side. If you turn this side on, that is instant hot water. It takes about 10 seconds for it to warm up, and you do want to be careful because it gets very hot very quickly. So you got to be a little careful with the hot water here, and you're going to kind of feel it out just like at home, okay? Now you'll see inside of the sink here we have the plug in, and that will keep water in there. You can pull the plug out, and it's all going to go down to the drain. A very important part of our water system here is the gray water tank. So currently the gray water situation is a 2.5 gallon tub. So what that means is this fills up very quickly. You need to keep your eye on this because once it fills up, if you're not paying attention, it just spills into the van and it makes a really nasty mess, especially if you're cleaning dishes. So please just keep an eye on this blue tank here when you're using the sink a lot. It will fill up in like one iteration of doing dishes. So if you're doing the dishes, you got to keep an eye on this thing so you can empty it out. When it does fill up, all you're doing is pulling out the tube. I like to just push it to the side like that so it doesn't drip all over everything. Simply take this out and you're gonna go dump it outside. We have some cleaning supplies under the sink for you to use. Also under the sink is this drying mat. So when you do your dishes, you can simply pull out your drying mat and let your dishes dry out here on this extra table space. We have extra table space on this fold-out table. You simply just pull it up till it locks. Now you have extra space on here to cook, do other things. When you want to put it away, just like the other one, there's these two latches right here. You just hold them and it closes. All right, along with the water system is how to fill up the water. You get we have a 21-gallon tank inside of the van. That tends to last us about a week, of doing dishes regularly. That's not with taking any kind of showers. If you're going to use the shower system, it's going to eat up a lot of water very quickly. But we're going to show you how to fill it up. This is your water fill. And you simply just need to get water in there. So how do we do that? You need to find yourself a water system. We've got about, I think there's 100 feet of water hose in here. This is all drinkable water hose. It's a special water hose for drinking water. We also give you a filter. So you're going to screw the hose into the filter. All right. And then you're going to screw the other side of the hose into your water source. And we like to put the filter on this side. I typically just stick it in like that. It tends to hold itself. And we turn the water on. And you fill it up. You'll start to hear it gurgle. When it starts gurgling and it sounds like it's about to come out of that tube, that's when it's full. You can usually just pinch this hose tight to stop the water, to pull it out so you're not making a mess. Okay. All right, we do have a shower system. We haven't really been using it that much, so we don't have a whole system set up right now. It's kind of more of just like to rinse off, okay? We may add a full privacy shower at some point, but for now, the way that this works is you press down on this button. That gives you access to this. You open this up. Here's your shower handle. What you're doing is you're taking this piece, you got to push it in there and then spin it around, okay? You can turn, there's hot and cold. You can adjust the heat. You can also adjust how you want the water to come out. And then you've got water, okay? So it's really nice for like if you find yourself in a muddy situation, you need to rinse your boots off, or you've been out in the desert in Moab or something like that, and you just want to take a quick rinse off, and you're somewhere a little private, parked off the road. This is a really great way, and you can have the hot water comes out here as well. To know how much water you have left, just as an idea, you can come down here, and this is actually the water tank here. It's a little hard to see, but when you flash your flashlight in here, I can see the water level is right here, and it'll go down. Once it gets down to about here, that's where you're really gonna see a lack of performance in the water pump, and you're gonna need to fill it back up. But like I said, if you fill the tank all the way, you'll probably get about a week's worth of water out of that using it regularly. Here is the garage. Tons of space back here. You can fit probably 3 or 4 mountain bikes. We don't currently have the mounts for the mountain bikes, but we do. Everyone who's been interested in the van so far has been wanting it for mountain bikes. So I'm gonna install some kind of mountain bike holding system at some point. But there is plenty of room. It's 31 inches from the lights to the ground here. You can fit a mountain bike straight in with the wheel on, but it's pretty tight. You're probably going to have to plan on taking the front wheel off of your mountain bike to fit it in the garage. Okay. We have lights in here. You just hit that and that. You want to show the lights? Here's the propane system on this side. There's a gauge on top of the propane to show you how much is left in there. We fill the propane up before you rent, so you shouldn't run out of propane. Just be careful with the propane hoses. Obviously, we've made some protection back there, but you want to be really cautious of any of the propane, any of the wires, right? Just be careful. Those are the fuses. If anything's not working with the electricity, please give me a call. But that's where you're going to find the fuses there, just in case a fuse needs to be changed. And then this is the water for the air conditioning, which we'll talk about in just a second. Right, so we do have an air conditioning system in here. It's not your typical air conditioning that you'd find at home. This is an evaporative cooler. It works best in hot, dry climates, which is where you're probably renting our van from, which is why we have an evaporative cooler. Works really good in Moab, Colorado, Las Vegas, anywhere in the desert Southwest where it's hot and warm. This thing works really well. It's not going to cool the whole entire van down. It's really nice for when you're laying in bed. So if it's really hot out, some tips are to park in the shade. The less sun on the van is going to keep it more reasonable inside. But this also works really well. We've been in, maybe 105 degree weather laying in the van, and this thing is pretty cold. Okay, to turn it on, you're going to hit the on button, and you're going to see a couple lights up here. So when the pump is on, when this green light is on, that's when it's actually evaporative cooling. It's going to be pumping water through this system up here. Okay, so with this light on, the evaporative cooler is pumping. You can turn the pump off and run just the fan. So a lot of times we find that we don't need the pump on until it hits about 90 degrees outside, maybe 85 or 90 degrees. So if you just want a little bit of airflow, you can just turn the fan on and have airflow. But if it is really hot out, just make sure you turn that pump on and you'll start getting cold air out of there. How long the water lasts just depends on how hot it is outside. So when you start running out of water, it'll beep and you'll see this low water light turn on, and that's when you know you need water. And then also it's got a light on here, and you can change the speed with this button over here. All right, and then when you're done using it, just turn it off. To fill the water up, that's this tank right here. You're just gonna open up this cap. We've got a funnel right here. We'll also have a gallon jug for you to fill up with the hose. And you're just gonna fill water into this tank.
We've provided a little Home Depot bucket toilet in case you need to go number 2. It's not for number 1, it's for number 2. Maybe you're out camping and there aren't any pit toilets, so this is a really great option. First of all, there will be garbage bags inside of the bucket as well as kitty litter. Highly recommend doing 2 bags, double bagging it, and tying them really tight around the rim. And then we have our beautiful toilet seat, which is made for buckets, and it sits on there snugly.
That's it.
That's it. After you you do your thing, just pour a little bit of kitty litter on top of it, and then you can use it multiple times, you and whoever you're camping with. It gets quite intimate and personal. But it's a great option if there are not any toilets around and you don't want to dig a cat hole in the frozen ground. And then just make sure that you are securing your bags tightly when you dispose of your waste, and definitely dispose of your waste before returning the van at the end of your trip. And that's all there is to say about the toilet. If you want to secure your waste while driving, there is an extra lid to make sure it's secure while you're driving.